It's time for one of the most beloved tennis tournaments of the year. I'm talking about Wimbledon. It's already underway, but this year's Wimbledon has something called the heat rule. Now, how is it that it'll be enforced? What the technicalities around it? I'm here to tell you everything that you need to know about the heat rule. Now, the heat rule's been introduced to keep players' safety and well-being in mind. Why we say that is because, or why the authorities felt the need to come up with this rule was because London's been experiencing extremely high temperatures. In fact, day one was expected to have a record temperature of around 29-30 degrees. In fact, 29.1 if memory serves me right, which would have been the highest for an opening day temperature since the year 2001. So keeping the heat in London in mind, this rule has been introduced. Now, how is it that the temperature will be gauged? How is it that the rule will be enforced? Let's take a deep dive into that. So the wet bulb globe temperature, or the WBGT scale, will be used to determine whether the heat rule should be enforced or not. Now, that's the first thing you need to know, that this is the technology at hand which will be used, which is the WBGT. Let's go a step further and tell you how is it that this technology functions. Now, the WBGT's heat index is a measure which pulls together multiple factors. What are those factors? Which pulls together the air temperature, humidity, surface temperature, and it is measured by a heat stress monitor. So these multiple aspects are taken into consideration by the WBGT technology, which is going to be used, and basis that a decision will then be taken, or will the rule then be enforced. If the let's take a step further. If the WBGT is at 30.1, now this is the rider, this is how it begins. So it has to be more than 30.1 degrees or higher. Only then will players be permitted to take that 10-minute break during the match. But can they take it at any point? Well, not quite. So be with me, I'll take you through those details as well. But let's try and understand. So this WBGT, it takes multiple factors into consideration, one of them being the air temperature, humidity, the surface temperature, all that is taken into consideration. And if the reading is 30.1 degrees Celsius or higher, that's the time that you can enforce this heat rule. Now, for those matches that are played under the roof, so it's not like it's going to be applicable for all matches. Only for those matches which will not have a roof on top will this rule be enforced. So every time the match played in a facility which has roofs, be it the center court for example, then the heat rule will not be utilized, and only one player needs to request for the 10-minute break. Not both the players, only one can go ahead and ask for the heat rule to be applied. Now, why did I say that you can't just use it at any point during the match? Well, let's take a look at that. For best of 5 set matches, and we're talking about singles matches over here. So for best of 5 set matches in the men's singles, the 10-minute break rule will be taken at the end of the third set. So you can't take it in the first couple of sets. And likewise, if you talk about the best of 3 matches, well, it can only be taken at the end of the second set. You can't just, if you're a player, even if you feel like taking it at an earlier point, you will have to wait. If it's a women's single match, for the second set to get over. In a men's single match, you will have to wait for the third set to get over. And lastly, the last bit that you need to know about this rule, that during breaks, players are allowed to leave from the court, but they're not permitted to receive any coaching or medical treatment. This is strictly to just be away from the heat, and there cannot be any tactical discussion, there cannot be any medical treatment that players can get during this particular time, and the authorities are going to be keeping a very close eye on that. So this is everything that you needed to know as far as the heat rule in this edition of the Wimbledon is concerned. If you like this video, share it with your friends and family members, and subscribe to Sports Today if you haven't done so already.